talented young man. I have sat with him before. Give us it up for Eric Vale.
I'm going to be very rude and eat one of your fine clementines.
Let's share. Sharing.
Did you bring it up for the whole class?
Shut up. Get out. That's right. You have to leave now.
Sharing is caring.
Who wants this chair?
You gotta eat a gator.
Gotta eat a what?
A gator.
Oh, I've had gator before. I'm going to buy you guys.
Alright, now, way this usually works is I'm going to chat with Eric for a little bit here and try to go over like the basic stuff before you ask him, you know, his favorite stuff. How does one become a voiceover actor? Which you do realize when you ask people like this, it's like, how can I take work away from you?
Which is why you get the answers you get. I've said to many people before, they go, how do I become a voice actor? I go, well, you don't. Next question.
Alright, doors are shut. Okay, Eric, welcome to Ocala, man. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, man. How you doing?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. Alright, we standing?
I'm standing because that way I can see the back of the room.
Alright, that's very good. Alright.
Those are the people who usually start throwing crap at me.
He needs to dump.
Well, we'll go ahead and open it up. Tell us about your forays, how you went from like liking animation, the early days of animation, into working it.
Well, you know, I started out as a child.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was, I guess it was kindergarten. I was like, or no, it was preschool. Sorry, I was in preschool. But when my mom would drop me off at preschool, and it was a terrible preschool. So what they did is it was in the 1970s, guys. So they had this giant, some of us will remember, I don't need to look right at you, but you'll remember, the big, boxy tube televisions that were the size of a cabinet.
Yeah.
And they had it over in the corner, and my mom would drop me off, and they would just stick us in front of the TV. So that's where I watched Battle of the Planets and Star Blazers, and those were my two growing up. And then I got into middle school, which was the big heyday of Robotech. Watched that, and
Carl Lysek put together 3 completely different animated series and tried to say it was all the same universe.
yeah.
And he actually almost kind of pulled it off. If you didn't know any better, you probably...
I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Made sense to me.
So it's just each one took place like 50 years after the previous one.
Yeah. So that was it, man. I grew up watching cartoons like everybody, and then I knew when I was 10 I wanted to be an actor, so I started studying. And then started taking classes, and then became a major in college for theater, and then got an agent, started working professionally, and I got the job of Trunks as my first voiceover gig. Because a friend of mine who I was in college theater with was already playing Bulma. So she found me at the pizza place I was working at and said, you need to audition for this show, here's the number. So I called up, got an audition, nothing happened. And then about 3 months later I got another audition for Trunks, and then a call back for Trunks, and then they cast me on the show. And that was 17 years ago. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I was like, you know, at some point you're doing something you love for so long, and then you look back and you're like, wow, that's 17 years. So that's my career. I didn't plan on that, but I ended up, you know, doing a career in voiceover. It was not, I never intended that, but here I am, and I got a bunch of people staring at me like, short version, yeah.
Let's jump ahead a little bit. At what point did you start to take on a role on the other side of the glass as ADR directing and things like that?
Well, you know, I mean, part of the whole process of being taught how to be an actor is they want you to learn how to do everything, so you can understand where the director is coming from, and knowing how to direct helps you act, and knowing how to act helps you direct. And so I did some of that going up through college, but once I was in Funimation, I've been voicing Trunks, and then they can't come in. I've been voicing drunks for about 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, I don't know, before we acquired Blue Gender, which was my second show to work on. And we did Blue Gender. And then after that was Fruits Basket. And it was right around the Fruits Basket time that we started acquiring
fruit.
We started acquiring multiple properties. The studio expanded. They needed writers, so that's what I did first. I started writing scripts, and they were like, "Well, it's going to be a lot easier for the guy who's writing to direct." So, for a long period of time, I was both voicing multiple characters up at Funimation, and directing shows up at Funimation, and writing shows at Funimation, which is just too much.
How did the scripts look like? Was it literally a case you got like a raw kind of translation, and then you had to transpose it to match the time?
Yeah, that's right.
The establishment of the characters.
Yeah, if you're given a show, you've got to do the research to know what you're doing. Then you get a time-coded script, and a translation, and then you have to work up a time-coded script because we're doing everything at certain times throughout the episode. So you got to time code the moments that everything happens. You have to write in all of the stage directions, everything an actor would do with their mouth goes into these scripts. Mostly dialogue, a lot of fighting, some weird noises. And you write that script, and it's a script in a table format, not like a play script or a feature film script. And send it into the studio, and then they call you in and you work. And writing for anime is an incredibly tedious job, so don't do it.
Did you ever recall a time where even the translated version seems so bizarre? It's like, wait, what are they really saying here?
So I was
to the store going, blown up.
Oh,
my lollipop.
The problem with Japanese, there's a lot of the language, not the people, guys. The language it's when it's translated, everything gets all mixed around. Specifically, jokes. Translating Japanese directly into English usually gets your punchline to happen first before the setup. And so first thing you do is you reverse those. And then you realize, well, none of that fits. But half the time, what's culturally
to get to the
funny,
other side.
Right, yeah.
Well, chicken.
Right, to get to the other side. No, it makes no sense, chicken. It's hard because you got to pull that apart, and sometimes those jokes don't make sense once they're translated into English. So you have to write a new joke. I did that a lot. I wrote Desert Punk. Did that a lot in Desert Punk. And the good news was that I also played the lead. So if I wrote a joke that I thought wasn't that funny, didn't matter. I'll write a new joke in a week when I'm in there recording. So that made that easier. But the comedy shows, you guys give credit to the writers at Funimation or any anime company who do comedy shows. Those are the really, really hard ones to do.
And that leads on into the point too about, again, anyone who wants to pursue a career in this, that's all about, in any facet of performing. The more things you have in your Swiss Army knife, okay, the more desirable you are in getting paid.
Yes, yeah, that's true. I mean, you diversification, and that's how you make a living in this industry. I diversified up front because I knew I live in Dallas. That's where Funimation is, and I knew if I wanted to make a career as an actor in Dallas, what I needed to do was diversify. I needed to act and direct and write and do those things in as many ways and places as possible. So I have acted and written and directed films as well, stuff for TV, web stuff, right? You do enough crap, you can make enough money to cover your bills. So, luckily this month, no bill collectors call. Really excited about that.
What would you say to date was probably the most challenging thing? Fatherhood?
No, marriage. Because those kids have to listen to me. My wife does the opposite of that. Not even not listening to me, but no consideration for any of my emotions whatsoever. So, that's not the answer. Anybody more? Yeah, right. Say thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to get this off for years. What? Right? Yeah. No, actually, it's super cheap. I did that. No, I seriously love my wife. She's so cool. And the other day, like we were in the kitchen, and I'm like, I was washing stuff, and she said something. I'm like, that's it. I took my ring off and threw it. And she's like, so it was like $100. Because you get married, it's her job to pay for it. Like, you bought me a cheap wedding ring? Yours was really expensive. It took me a year to pay it off. Anyway. Right? I wanted to know that, you know, she stuck with me.
You signed up for it though.
What?
You signed up for it though.
Signed up for what?
Marriage.
I did not. No, I did not.
Ring to prove it.
This is okay. Every married male, raise your hand. Did we sign up for this crap? No. No, we did not.
Stand up for the
At any rate, I
Funny voices. Okay, right.
So, short version, I am actually a ridiculously happily married person, and my wife and I discuss that on a daily basis because God knows, I don't want to deal with anyone else. Like, we had, last week we had an argument or something, and the next day I looked at her and said, even with an argument like that, I don't ever want to deal with anyone else for the rest of my life. So please, don't leave me. And she's like, you pay the bills. But as far as a job goes, the hardest job in this, you mean like a voiceover gig?
Yeah, but you're some crazy voice that blew you out or something.
Well, there's weird, as far as like exertion voices, yes, I passed out as playing trunks one time from screaming, right? And the last 2 days, I was on 2 different shows. I did an anime and a video game on 2 consecutive days, which one day was 4 hours of screaming intensely with minor breaks, and the next day on the video game was 2 hours of non-stop screaming with no breaks. So at the end of that, I had virtually no voice. But it's cool because I felt like I was working. The hardest jobs to do are actually more corporate voiceover and commercials because you're signing up for things that you don't quite understand. It's not really as an actor your job to understand. You just do what they want you to do. So I was doing these commercials I do commercials for a bunch of different companies. So there's this one company who I was doing, can't talk about it. I was doing commercials for a feature film. Commercials for this company with a feature film that they're married and it's coming out this summer, right? Okay, so I do the voiceover for these commercials. They sound great. They call me back in 2 days later. The client needs some rewrites. So the client I have 30 seconds to do the copy, to read the copy. The copy is the dialogue. I have 30 seconds to read this, just like a 30-second commercial on the radio or TV, right? So they've now added in more words to make sure that the client is happy, more sizzler words, like sizzle. But those kinds of words. So they add more of those in, and I got to do those. Then 2 days after that, we hear from the network that these ads are playing on, which is a kids network, and they tell us, well, now we need these more words added in. And I'm like, great. So what I started out with 30 seconds of copy that made sense that I could get through. And now I have 33 seconds of copy that I've got to fit into 30 seconds. And then I have 35 seconds of copy that I have to fit into the already crammed tight 30 seconds. Which means that everything that I'm saying has to sound like this. And I'm doing and you start sounding like the Micro Machines guy. And so that to me is the most challenging part of my job, is that kind of time.
You got to do the puking at the end where you I did a medical one, and they also had me do the enjoy the freedom this gives you. And then make out constipation, and I bleeding, it was like or death, side effects. Yeah.
I was watching TV this morning, and the commercial started, and they go, side effects may include, and it just kept going. And I'm like, I don't care how sick I am. I don't want to have all of those things. Like, how can something cause diarrhea and lupus? If you got a drug that causes diarrhea and lupus, don't sell it to people. It doesn't seem that difficult.
Keep fighting. But again, since some people are interested in voice acting, or voice acting, a lot of people just don't realize that, sometimes it is just selling toothpaste. Sometimes it's telling, hey, everybody, come on down to Al's Used Cars this weekend. That's so much a part of the life.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I'll use my super art. That's fun and it sounds fun, but it seems like, some people look at voice actors like, well, I can do that and do voices. And it's like, well, do you look at a high wire act and think, oh, I can do that. With, 18 years of practice,
So I made up these business cards that I hand out at conventions. I did not bring any with me this weekend. I'm sorry, but there are certain cons that I know I won't need them. So I've had quite a few people come through the line today, and they've said, how do you get into voice acting? How did you get in? Boom! So how do you get into
everybody,
voice
look at
acting?
his cool shirt. Come on, show
Show your shirt.
I'll trade shirts.
Dude, there's a chair. There's like 3 chairs over here. No, that's yours. You do not get out of that chair.
He ain't that important. Stay where you are.
Besides, I'm not feeling
So, cards.
Oh, yeah. So, I've had, some of you come through and ask how to get into voice acting or how did I get into voice acting. And I've told you guys the straight answer is just, you're an actor. You got to be into acting. Get into acting and do that. And that's cool. And everybody who I told that to is all like, oh, all right, cool. Because I know that if, I'm here at this kind of a con, everyone's going to just be cool. But some cons, are not going to be like that. And so I printed up these business cards that say that I'm a surgeon. Because everyone will be like, yeah, man, I think I'm really good at this and I should really get into voice acting. I'm like, great, have you ever acted? No. Have you ever recorded your voice? No, but I'm awesome at it. I'm like, great. I want to get into surgery. Here you go. If you want me to cut your stomach open for no reason whatsoever, just call me. That's the thing. Like, every job requires some degree of training, some degree of your dedication to it. I didn't get here because I just wanted to. I got here because I tried. Like I said, I started studying acting when I was 10, and I booked the role of Trunks when I was like 28. That's 18 years of work to book something of significance, so it's not an easy life, but it's fun.
You ever met Tom Wilson, Back to the Future?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see one of his postcards?
No, but I've seen his comedy.
Okay. Yeah, he's got a whole postcard printed up, which is his frequently asked questions, and it's incredibly dense. So excuse me, are you? Yes, I am. Here you go. Thank you. And it's just like it's like, hi, I'm Thomas Wilson. I play Biff in Back to the Future. Michael J. Fox is nice. We don't keep in touch. And it goes on and on, and look it up online, and it's amazing. It's like you read that and you don't. Thanks. Okay.
I'm gonna steal that.
Thank you very much, So be an actor. That's the short version. But that's a case in point that at the larger conventions, everybody wants the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. No, teach me the secret art, the technique to doing it. It's like, it's not, man. You just gotta swim.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's some people.
The island's out there. You just gotta swim towards it.
Yeah, right.
You might drown.
Sure, or get bombed, or run into a mine, or get eaten by a shark, but pieces of you will get to the island. So, where are we?
I tell you what, let's go ahead. Let's go to open up some questions. Okay, who wants to? All right, we'll take you, young lady, and then we'll take you in the back, and then we'll go after that.
Do you have a special voice that you do for your wife or your kids?
No, I don't. My daughter is 10 years old and she's autistic, so she has a very particular view of the way the world should work. And really core to that is that everyone fits into their roles. So I am not allowed to do any voices in my house. This is the only voice that I get to say in my house. I can't. We are not allowed. I love her so much. We are not allowed to sing. We are not allowed to dance. We are not allowed to use funny voices. We are not allowed, and I mean in any way. If I am in the kitchen, say, dancing with my wife, because we have, we do a lot of stuff in the kitchen, cooking. We have an Alexa in there, so we play music. And, so I'll be dancing with my wife in the kitchen, whatever, and she'll walk in and she'll just go, "No dancing!" And then she will come over in between us and push us apart. And then she'll go,
"It's like okay."
Your house. Right? Yes, thank you. I did grow up in Beaumont.
Oh.
Okay. So yeah, I'm not allowed to use voices because of her. My son his name's Quinn Angel. He's an actor as well, and he does some stuff up at Funimation. And he certainly doesn't want to hear my voice. He's 25, and he's like, he wants to talk acting. So he wants to know, like, get all the tips and what do you do, and he's awesome. He's so awesome. That kid is way smarter than any actor I've ever known. I don't know why he wants to do it. I'm like, you can do anything, dude. You can be a physicist, you can be an engineer, you want to be an actor? Whatever.
I want to be better than you, Father.
Right? Good, please be. If he can become better than me, then I can stop working and just ride his coattails. Let's get that one going. So yeah, so I'm not allowed to use my voices at home.
Staying in a stage parents, you be the first voiceover bearer.
Yeah,
try it, man.
So my the thing that I do for fun for myself, because I do have to practice voices, but here's the key, and this goes to some of the people who are asking about how you get into this. It's not about doing interesting voices, it's about doing interesting performances. As an actor, you have to be a performer. You have to take on a character. So I've started this thing that I'm trying to tell everybody, and I demand every person in this room do this thing, because we all deal with the same problem on a daily, constant basis, and that's telemarketers. Who gets calls on their cell phone from telemarketers?
I don't answer them.
I promise it's the whole room. I promise. It's more than that. So, here's what I do. Every time there's a telemarketer, as I see the number, I immediately think, what's my character? And I pick a character, and I answer in character. And I see how long I can keep that idiot on the phone. Because telemarketers, if you hang up on, here's something I know from my wife's best friend who worked as a telemarketer for a while. We had to get over that a little bit. But she said that the thing about telemarketers, if they are live, robots you can't do anything about, but if they're live, they have a job. They have to close sales. The worst thing that you can do for them, the way you get off their call list, is you waste their time. I have wasted, one time, I kept a woman on the phone for 2 hours. And
Dude, you're brutal.
This is what I did. I go, oh, and I'm really interested in your offer, but I have to do something with my kid real fast. Can you hold on just 1 second? I'll be right back. And then I would put it on speaker, and I'd come back and go, I'm sorry, are you still there? Yeah, I'm still there. What can I, I gotta help my daughter, I'll be right back. Come back a few minutes later, and I did that while I was doing chores. Are you still there? Yeah, still working. 2 hours before she hung up, and that call never came through again. The other day I had somebody call me up when I was on my way to work on some anime. And they say, they've been calling me, God, one time I donated money to my friend's diabetes walk. And for some reason I was put on all these call lists that say that I have diabetes. And I'm like, no, I was just helping a friend out, but they keep calling me, asking me if I need to buy their diabetes testing kits or this or that. The other day they called me about a brace, and I got this call 3 times in the same week, and after I wrecked them, they never called me again. But the last time was, the guy's like, hi, I'm calling because I want to see if you have a brace. And he's got an Indian dialect, it's very thick, it's difficult to understand, not because of that, but because the connection kind of sucks. So I start talking to him, and he's like, well, what do you do, how can I get you your brace? Where does your pain exist? And I go, well, it's in my head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And he goes, okay, it is in your head, and your shoulders, and your knees. And I go, knees and toes, knees and toes. That went on for a few minutes until he started asking about my doctor, and I went on for 20 minutes. It's 30 minutes to get from my house to Funimation. 10 minutes of that was me doing the kid knees and toes song. The rest of it was me describing my doctor. Dr. Seuss. Who I can't understand. He's talking about green eggs and ham, and I don't really eat green eggs and ham, Sam I am. And this guy doesn't know what I'm talking about. So he thinks I'm being serious. And he's like, Dr. Seuss, okay, Dr. Seuss, and green eggs and ham, and I can hear him typing everything in. So, yeah. Everyone please do this and let's stop the insanity.
Yes, I do it on long plane flights when somebody next to me absolutely wants to talk to me the whole way.
Oh.
So I will try to convince them of some obscure, crazy occupation that I come up with right there.
Good.
Yeah, I had a woman convinced I was a crematorium technician on the way to Salt Lake City. And it was an emergency because they were behind on processing. You burn people? The preferred term is processing.
Yeah, you're actually really right. My wife's best friend, the ex-telemarketer, guess what she does now? Works at a funeral home, burns dead people.
Burning interviews in. All right, young man with glasses, you got a question?
Okay, I got 2. 1. Was burning the dead bodies fun?
I don't burn dead bodies. My wife's best friend does. Yeah, and she says, no, it's not fun.
Okay, 2. How long can you scream?
What?
Well, you said you were screaming 2 hours non-stop, and
Yeah.
it was something I was actually curious in.
Like how long can I scream for?
Uninterrupted.
In one interrupted, I can nowadays I can go for about 30 seconds when I'm screaming, and
Don't.
Everybody, do you think you can go longer? Take it outside. I can do more than that.
but it depends on a few things. Like the number one thing it depends on is allergies. As I've gotten older, my allergies have gotten worse, and my screaming has gotten worse. So I have to compensate that. And the unfortunate way that I compensate it is Benadryl. It clears up everything, but by the time I'm in the booth recording, I want to fall asleep. So I have to take some Excedrin migraine with it to give me the caffeine boost. It's basically like a poor man's speedball. Right?
You can't use 5-hour energy?
No, I don't use any energy drinks anymore. I was told to stop that. So, my doctor. Dr. Seuss? Not my wife. Dr. Seuss! Yeah, so I don't drink coffee anymore. I don't really even drink tea all that much.
I wish I could do that.
Am I screaming right now?
No.
Yeah, ain't gonna happen.
Sorry.
Yeah, your question?
Sarah?
Thank you for the answer.
Of course.
I actually have 3 questions.
Okay, let's roll it.
Brothers conflict.
Hmm?
What were you feeling knowing that it was your reverse hero series?
I have no idea. Like, really, Brothers Conflict was something... This is how I got cast in Brothers Conflict. Eric, can you come in here? Yeah, okay. Get in the booth. Okay. Say these 4 lines. blah, 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 blah. All right, you're done. That's, I swear to
You got paid, right?
I got paid. It's work, but that's the extent of my knowledge.
Watched it in one night.
What?
I binge watched it in one night.
One night?
Yes, girl.
I wish I could have been acted it. Oh, what else? What's the second question?
If you were to work on a original manga, would you do it?
I'm an actor, so if somebody's hiring me, yeah. And I have a story about that after your third question. Remind me about the horrible job.
Or the newest BBC thing?
Yeah, the super?
I think I kind of like drugs and overwhelming knowing that Funimation bears control.
Okay, yeah, overwhelming. I don't know, because honestly, I don't pay, like I said about being an actor, I don't pay attention. I don't.
They're really big on coming up.
Yeah, and I have not worked on Dragon Ball Super at all. And that's not an NDA talking, that's me. They've not called me to come in and voice it. I don't know where they are in the recording process, so I don't know anything about it. As far as anything, any interrelationships between Funimation and Crunchyroll, I have no idea.
Because I think it's very stressful on the voice actors.
The weak ones.
I've heard about people I feel bad.
Oh no, you should absolutely worry about Matt Mercer.
Oh,
Because
gosh.
when I see him, I'm gonna punch him in his mouth. This is something else. Like a lot of us voice actors, we really are friends and really love each other. And when you really love somebody, you talk about how much you hate them. It's what I do with my brother. It's what I do with my family, as you've heard. You know, and so when I say like I'm gonna punch Matt Mercer in the mouth, it means when I see him next, I'm gonna go,